Hi, everybody. I'm here.
Probably where it all comes from.
Director Townsend Smith, can you hear us?
Are you on the rebound or are you just starting to get it? Okay. It's right here in the chat. Yeah.
Director Townsend Smith, you are muted. If you could unmute yourself.
All right.
Okay, there you go.
You don't have
Yeah,
to-
Ahmed, I had a problem with the computer, so I'm off my phone now.
Thank you.
No, but I can text him. Are you able to like message him or no? Yeah. What are you with?
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm here, I guess.
I'll turn that one off.
Maybe muted.
Very hard to tell. Director Smith, we can hear you. I don't know if you can hear us or not.
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Call to order the Rainbow Municipal Water District Board of Directors Special Board Meeting for June 9th, 2026. Roll call, please.
President Hamilton,
Here.
Vice President Mack,
Here.
Director Townsend Smith,
Here.
Director Hoffman,
Here.
Director Irvine.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion for approving the agenda as published? So moved. Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Hamilton. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have to do roll call because of Patty. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
Director Townsend Smith,
Aye.
Director Hoffman,
Aye.
Director Irvine,
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Motion passes 5-0. Public comment. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject not identified on this agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Rainbow Municipal Water District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for a report and action at a subsequent board meeting. As to matters on the agenda, if a request to make a public comment is received, an opportunity will be given to address the board when the matter is considered. Members of the public may make comments in person by submitting a speaker slip to the board secretary, virtually through virtual or teleconference options, or by submitting an email to the board secretary no later than midnight the day before the meeting. Comments shall be made in an orderly manner, and profanity, slander, or abusive language which is disruptive to the meeting will not be tolerated. Individuals have a limit of 3 minutes to make comments and will have the opportunity when called upon by the presiding officer. I have one speaker slip. Julie, you have a general comment or do you have a specific item you want to address? Okay. Oh.
Thank you for having action item C on the agenda today. To review and discuss board compensation policies for the director's expenses and reimbursement that are paid using public funds. In this review and discussion, I encourage the board and staff to consider how is our district being transparent with this information to our ratepayers, and what ways could it be improved beyond having attachment G. One suggestion for consideration is within the district's website under Board of Directors. Currently, our ratepayers have access to Form 806 and ethics documentation. Adding attachment G, fiscal reimbursement board comprehensive totals and individual board directors' totals would increase transparency to our ratepayers on additional expenses paid with public funds. Our district website is also an ideal tool for transparency, as it also provides free access to Google Translate. So all ratepayers can access the information in their preferred language 24/7 and easily contact their division or director or the water district on any questions that they may have. Our district has worked diligently on our application to CSDA for a platinum award. Inclusive transparency on how public funds are being spent by our elected board of by our elected board of directors is an area I believe needing improvement. And that has great potential to move us to excel from needing improvement. Our community and ratepayers deserve this to be corrected. Thank you.
Thank you. Action items. A, consider the establishment of administrative fines for water theft and unauthorized use of district water facilities pursuant to Senate Bill 394.
Yes, so, board, thank you. This item is basically regarding SB 394, new law that's been, signed in effect on October 10, 2025, our governor, for water theft from the fire hydrant. It, basically allows the water districts to impose fines for, water theft, fire hydrant, tampering or diversion of the water. We suggest for this fines to go into effect on July 1, 2026. You see in the agenda in the table. And they're presented in the escalation manner for first, second, or third violation. And this is in line with SB 394. These fines will be separate from any additional damage or water loss. And they're basically to not to create additional revenue to the district, but to prohibit misuse of the fire hydrant. Basically let the public know so nothing else will be expended.
Constantine, it's not specifically limited to fire hydrants. As I read the briefing, it also has to do with bypassing meters or any other unauthorized taking of the resources from the district.
We specifically separated in the item 6A action item is just for the fire hydrant. That's what the SB 394 referring to, and Dr. can comment on that. But we separated other fines into action item 6B for miscellaneous fee. That'll be
Oh,
a
okay.
separate following, and I will have a presentation on that. This one is specifically strictly on a fire hydrant because those are gonna be fines.
How do we know that they're stealing?
We will pass them by on the truck and we'll notice that
just
somebody connected
You just catch them.
and
Do we catch? Okay.
Robert.
Robert's out there. CCTV. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the fire hydrants only. And the first violation, 1,000, second violation for the same person will be 2,000, and the third 3,000, and so on thereafter. Yeah.
With this, when you just said same person, shouldn't that also be like maybe the same company?
Would be the same company.
Yeah, because it could be a different driver, but still the same company that's stealing it.
Refers to basically the same customer, which could be a company.
Okay.
Those fines are separate from any of our own water laws the images hour later. The admin fine.
I'm just kind of curious, how do you estimate how much they took?
Depending on the pressure in the fire hydrant and for how long they've been connected. That's just an estimate. There's a SCADA system.
It depends on what they're filling. Let's say they have a water truck.
Mhm.
Some water trucks will hold 2,000 gallons, 5,000 gallons, et cetera. When we get there, we know that's a minimum. And when you start talking to them, generally they all give up the information.
Yeah.
How many times have you filled up today? Oh, only 5 times. Okay. How do we catch them? Staff driving by, believe it or not. Somebody calling.
Hmm.
They can't, somebody calls in the cameras we have at the tank sites. How we caught one company out at Gomez, taking water off the fire hydrant way out there. The camera was there. I happened to be looking at what they were doing, the contractor working, they weren't working for us. And I was watching them and I'm like, oh, I was like, then hit record. You got it. Yeah, dead to rights.
Do you call the police when that's happening or
No.
what's your protocol?
No, so we'll get all their information, take pictures of the logos on the trucks and everything like that. Put a bill together and send it off to them.
Do they pay? So this is just more in stone. This is what we're gonna do. Okay. Okay.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, could there be considered a criminal element to that? Because it is theft
Yeah.
after all. Or is that just mainly an issue of district violation?
It's definitely the violation of our admin code.
Right.
It could be theft. I would say, yeah, if the dollar amount got over what the felony, what a misdemeanor was,
Right.
whatever that is. uh, uh, More
than
$900
or whatever. Then proving that in a court of law would be challenging if you're kind of trying
If you have
to
a video,
estimate.
if you have a videotape of them filling up 5 times. Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's
And
probably
you've got them dead to rights, but other than that,
right. Do you guys feel like this this amount is a high enough amount to disincentivize that type of practice?
I think it's gonna take time for word to get out. Initially,
Okay.
right, because the Joe Blow that's working on the street and this foreman said, go there and get some water for this project over here.
Mm.
He doesn't know,
Right,
but after a while, word will get out that this is an expensive.
right.
endeavor.
But what I'm asking is, does staff feel that this is a high enough threshold to create a major
Deterrence.
deterrence?
I think so.
You do?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering is, because I don't know what the vibe is among the people that are doing this stuff, so. At some point, it becomes, it's kind of like when you're driving in the HOV lane, you know, you look at that little sign and you make a decision at that point.
Right.
How much is it worth it for me to jump into this carpool lane by myself? And you process that and you make a decision. What I'm just wondering is the dollar amount set at a level that you would give pause to
It would be
someone
less
contemplating?
expensive for them to get the construction, you to put the deposit and all that, do it the right way.
It would be less expensive
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
it that way. Okay, okay,
So,
yeah, got it.
yes,
Question, do you think it might be a good idea to put like a little sticker on
the meter?
the hydrant, fire hydrant?
we've actually started looking into that, believe it or not, yeah.
Yeah, because I just know like on trespassing and I know there was some ordinances in when I worked for San Marcos, the police said if it's not posted, then they're not. So I'm thinking, maybe you want to put a little there, then you got it.
Yeah, so. it's Preferably about 1 inch square where you need a magnifying glass to read. Yeah. Well, we actually started talking about that, with our management, so it seemed like we're going in the right direction.
I mean, my
But
big-
yeah, it gets them like, I didn't know they can't use that.
Right.
Because it's right there. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Constantine, I'm coming back to the same issue. I'm a little confused because the documentation, the fire hydrant is only item 3 under the violation types. And there are 2 other items, meter tampering and unauthorized reconnection, water theft, unauthorized use by means other than meter tampering, and then the fire hydrant.
You're right. That's all the 3 under SB
It's all under 6A.
94
Yeah.
and it's covered, and that's what the board's action
Okay.
is
So it's more than just the 2,500 and 5,000 and 10,000 for first, second and third time. For fire hydrants, so I mean, it's all of the package, which has to do with other types of
Can
depth.
you move that up so Patty can hear? Thank you.
Yes, you're correct. Meter tampering, is a separate fine at, $130 for the first violation, 700 for the second, and 1,300 for the third. Water theft, unauthorized use by means other than meter tampering is 1,000 for the first one, 2,000 for the second, 3,000 for the third violation. And unauthorized fire hydrant use is 2,500 for the first one, 5,000 for the second one, and 10,000 for the third. And each subsequent.
Shouldn't, I'm just kind of curious, shouldn't that be more specific on the size of a meter? Because the reason why, if someone's stealing a 3/4 or 1 inch, I mean, they're stealing, but not as much. But if someone has a 4 inch, they're stealing. I mean, shouldn't there also be?
There's still damages recovered. This is just the fine.
Right,
But
but
this is just the fine. And as the amount of water being stolen, that will be additional. But for administrative process, the fine in accounting, it will be the same cost to us as processed for 3/4 or for 3 inch. Same amount of stuff that on the, because this is only administrative fine.
because I remember, maybe Robert, you would know this. I remember when, this was several years ago, when we were doing the meter update, wasn't there someone caught putting like magnets on something on a meter so it wouldn't work properly? Yeah, I mean, so to me, I'm thinking anything, a large scale of a meter, they're potentially stealing a lot. That's where I'm thinking.
Right, so these fines, this is just saying you tampered with the meter or you tampered with the hydrant and you stole water, this is the fine. Once we figure out how much water, that's an additional to, and then all the staff time to deal with this whole situation, that's in addition to these minimum fine.
And that's part of the ordinance that you can
Right.
bill all those additional costs as well.
Actually, it's part of the existing ordinance that we can recover our cost. We just didn't have any administrative fine keep.
It's very well, not similar, but let's say a car hits a fire hydrant. They ran off the road, hit a hydrant. Staff goes out there, duty guy responds. Staff goes out there, fixes the hydrant, then we calculate the water loss, and then we send a bill to the insurance company or to whoever it goes to, and we recover the cost for them. So that's what we would do in this case, but on top of that, they're gonna get charged these fines,
Fines.
administrative fines.
Are we in line with other agencies in terms of how they fine for these types of infractions?
Well-
Did we do any research? Or are we just kind of looking at?
It's all kind of new, right?
It is new. I did some research, Old Tidewater and Thumbplow and Acres, they already have it rolled out in this current fiscal year. And they say up to 10,000, fine. Anything on their website, that's, something like that, there's phone number, caller, and report for suspicious activity.
Hmm.
And we are in line. Some agencies seem like more strict about it. They have more presence online and they're not notifying everybody about this stuff.
With regard to the fire hydrants, did we consult at all with North County Fire in terms of how they kind of see the violation impact on the fire hydrant side? Because I'm kind of assuming that, like, say you have a fire and people start hooking up their own lines to fire hydrants, that pulls pressure away. So North County Fire goes out and understand why their pressure is so low, and find out that you got people watering down their houses because they've hooked into fire hydrants. It seems like a big enough thing on the fire hydrant side where it becomes a health and safety issue. That, perhaps that fine should really be impactful, especially during declared emergencies. where the fire department is relying on that water pressure from those hydrants. And if people are tapping in to get ahead of the game, to soak down their houses and their properties, that could become a real problem.
I think what I've seen more than using fire hydrants is they turn all their irrigation on and then leave. So they try to create this water vapor envelope around their house. For somebody to hook up to a hydrant, you would already have to have the special fittings to do that and understand how that whole
Okay.
system
Okay,
works,
so it's not
right?
as easy as.
So it's
Yeah.
not something
Got it,
most
got
people
it.
have those adapters and
Okay.
everything on them.
So in all your years of experience, when you're running out looking at fires and things, you've never seen people trying to access hydrants?
Oh, I
in
stopped
fire
the water truck was pulling up, like, I pulled right up on them and stopped them.
during a fire emergency?
Yeah, and they were not related to the fire department. They have anything to do with the fire department.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that those should be very, very hefty fines, but,
So maybe this is just a starting point.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have recommendation for direction to staff?
I'm good with it. Good job.
Their first time. The proposed administrative fine.
Yes.
Well, it's
Well,
it's all three.
Are you looking for voting direction on this?
Essentially, I don't,
Are you looking at
Don't
first to
you
vote
need
on
that?
option at this point?
no. Right,
So just direction to move forward with that,
Okay,
okay,
schedule it.
so we're directing you to move forward with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Consider fee for service update for fiscal year 2026-2027.
We have a presentation for this item. Action item 6, miscellaneous fees update. This is our regular annual update of any type of fees that are outside of our regular business operation. This fees has to do with delinquency on customer bill, misuse, any damage, temporary, but different from the one that we just discussed. And that will be all of the non-operating type of activity of our district. This will be also part of the public hearing of their legal basis for that question.
Yeah, if we go back to what was the specialized operation response? What is that?
Specialized operational response is when there's a project and we go out and downsize the meter, or if there's a special customer request that is outside of regular district's business providing water. So that could be developer fee, any type of construction, and where we have to, so engineering fee will be included in that as well. Reviewing plans, submittals for developments. If customer will call us for installing a meter or removing a meter. So that costs are borne specifically for that only one customer and not for, so it should not be covered by general fund.
Is it a flat rate or is it like an hourly rate?
It will depend on type of work. And I have presented,
You're stealing his thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, we'll go over. There's lots of different, it depends on type of work. It's legally approved. It's not any additional revenue, and it will not require Prop 218 because it's not regular water rates or wastewater rates. Those are miscellaneous. It establishes ratepayer equality. So the fees that are borne by only a specific project or customer paid by that customer and not paid by the whole district. So we're making sure that the costs are paid uh, evenly and specifically by those customers that are creating the cost. And here's our current fines on the left column, and on the right column is escalated. Basically, I increased by about 5%, which is within the inflation margin of increase. And then you can see the type of additional fees that we have. So delinquency rate is when customers pay late for their water bill. And first month that is late is 5% of their bill. That would be a fee, and 1.5% thereafter. And this has to do with fair allocation of cost. If somebody paying bill late but we still have to pay for the water, so that means other customers might be covering for another person, and there's interest rate involved, and that's where this fee originated. Return check, we have some accounting involved, additional time. So this is just going up by 5% of a small increase. The largest ones that we just talked about in the previous item, that's water theft and unauthorized fire hydrant. Those are new ones that we did not have any administrative fees for that. Yes, Dr.
Sorry.
Mack? Yes.
What is the tax roll?
So this one is for whenever there's unpaid water or sewer charges, we would put a lien on the person's property in the efforts of collecting unpaid.
You move
this
it
is
to the tax
administrative
roll.
processing.
Then they charge a fee to put it on the,
They charge you, I guess they charge us a fee to add it to their.
Right,
The additional staff time to do that to recoup the money back.
correct. Can move on next one if there's no questions.
A good example is the fire flow test. That just covers our staff time. Someone requests a fire flow. We go out there and we charge them that fee to recover our staff time.
and that's an hourly or a flat rate?
That is a flat rate to go do it because our staff knows exactly how long it takes to do a fire flow.
What's a fire flow stuff?
Fire flow test is where you are building an ADU or you're building a new home and the fire department says we need a fire hydrant here, or you have fire sprinkler suppression in the new home. We know what our static pressure is, we know the dynamic pressure, but the actual flow it will deliver at that specific location is done via a fire flow test. There's some specialty equipment and then put into a calculated form.
Thank you.
Yeah, or like the next one, meter obstruction. It's when the customer blocks us from reading the meter and they would put something on top of it. So that there's additional staff time involved. That doesn't happen very often, so it's just something.
You probably do that.
I do. That's why they padlock my meters.
Now you're gonna pay.
It'd be expensive. Please
Yeah.
don't do that. Moving on, engineering services fees, and those are developer plan review fees, easements and material fees. Those are increased. We did how much of the staff time and it takes for each type of activity, and proposing an increase on the developer plan review fee. And this will include our type fully burden rate for full recovery of our cost. On material fees, currently there's a flat cost per meter size. And what we are suggesting is move it to a market cost due to market volatility, and also meters are different types. There's Neptune meter, and somebody would buy the different kind that the price may vary. So in that case, we're not really locked in under specific cost and would incur loss, for example. So we want to avoid that. Project administration deposit. Those are not really a fee. Those are just a deposit. And for work, for example, somebody wants to install 1 meter or up to 5 meters. So if his deposit is going to go up from 3,500 to 5,000. But if the work will be less than that, then the customers will or developers will get a refund for a difference. But what we're seeing most of the time, they would go over. So that's why we need an increase to 5,000 for this type of work. No questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mhm.
So the proposed fees are increasing, it looks like at a rate of 8% to as much as 10%.
That is correct.
Where is that, that percentage rate increase based on? Where's that coming from? Because I don't think our labor rates are going up at that, and I don't think our water rates are going up at that. So why are we adjusting
When-
these plan review fees?
When was the last time we adjusted these rates?
We adjusted these rates last year. This is on annual basis. An excellent question. It is going up more than just our regular labor
Right.
year-over-year increase.
Yeah,
And this has to do with different calculation methodology of fully recover our cost. I looked at how it was calculated last year, and we would be recovering our straight labor time times the benefit. But then we're not recovering administrative costs that fully burden that go with it, like having pay for utilities, for driving a truck to the place, and we were not fully recovering. So this will help district to fully recover at a fully burdened rate, which
to Hayden's question, when was the last time these fees were updated?
we looked at it last year.
Last year.
As it was presented.
Yeah, just to me, it just seems like I'm looking at some of these cases over 10% increase on some of this stuff, and it just gives me pause with the burden that ratepayers and customers of the agency already have to see anything in the neighborhood of 10 or 12%. I sort of struggle with just because I'm kind of looking, and I understand that there was a methodology that you used to justify this, but it just seems a little bit on the extreme side in terms of where we were last year and where we're going this year. Those kind of percentages I have a little bit of a hard time with, so.
What was the last year? Adding on.
I can't speak to, I don't recall us updating this last year. But I thought it was a few years ago, especially on the developer plan review fees and the project administration deposits. What I can speak to is when we evaluate this, the district itself is not recouping its money back when we take these fees to do the plan checks and the deposits. The deposits are different because anything left over in the project deposit is refunded back when the board accepts that project via the notice of completion. It is very difficult for staff to get the first deposit. 3,500 it's a hard ask. It is painful for me to go back and ask for more money when they're still mid-project. And so in speaking with finance and the general manager, it is a large jump from 3,500 to 5,000, but this is what these projects are averaging. On average, we're right in that ballpark.
What you were saying is 1 to 5 meters, but they tend to go over.
They tend to go over the $3,500 deposit we're currently charging. It starts the project in customer service and in finance. It's the inspection in the field, and then it's the staff time to bring it to the board for the notice of completion, recorded at the county. It's the whole project deposit.
Right.
Everything. And so they're not going over more meters.
That's
It's
what I
that
meant.
the cost is,
It's going
whether it's
over.
1 meter or they're installing 5 meters, we're spending more. Their contractors are taking longer. The work is more difficult than anticipated, whatever it is. And so this is why staff is recommending we do it so that we can upfront recoup those costs, especially on the fee side, the developer plan review fees. It is costing more than $1,200 for us to review a single sheet. And so we're asking to increase that to 1,600.
And it's just a deposit, right? So then they could get refunded their
There's-
money.
There's both. We have it in both fees and deposits. The deposit is the only one that is refunded. And it's only refunded if there's money left over.
So there's no way to look at this and say 3,500 to 5,000. It
It-
could be less, or you're just saying 5,000.
We are going to collect, we're asking the board to approve this where we would collect 5,000 upfront. Let's say we finished the project and it was 4,000. When it's completed, we would refund that deposit, the $1,000. If it goes over, which they go over more than we finish under, and that's solely at the developer and their contractor, that's not staff time pushing that. Then we would request additional.
So you're saying it's pulling eye teeth to get
Yes.
that additional.
Yes, it's hard for us to get the first deposit, but if it's 3,500 or 5,000, that's an equal level of effort. Requesting your project is now in arrears. I need an additional 2,500. That is very hard. Develop over 5 meters, Ocean Breeze Ranch, the Havens, these developer projects are in the six figures. This is just for the smaller developer.
I say something, I feel like $1,500 more to a developer is peanuts. So I'm in favor of this.
This is for smaller developers. Right?
They make
Yes,
a bundle.
yeah, this is for
But
the,
this could be small property owners with
Yeah.
plan check for,
Yep.
for, ADUs and
Yes.
Mhm.
simple things like that. It's not just developers. So. Yeah, and to the point about, you did a methodical review of costs, and I get all that. But similar to, say, for example, the pass-through water rates. I mean, we got a heavier pass-through water rate, but we were able to modify that amount and downsize it to the customer. So we didn't just simply pass that through. So in the same vein, I'm wondering, is there a way that even though, yeah, and I understand cost recovery is sort of the model that
Yep.
we're trying to go for. But if you're telling me that we reviewed this last year, and at this point, we'll have to check that, because I'd be curious to know what that increase was from the year prior. But if you're telling me now that we're going to another, double digit increase over a year, I have a problem with that.
Okay.
I'm just throwing it out.
is this coming back for a public hearing as well? Okay,
Yes.
so we have some time to look into that?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, we will find out the last time all of these tables were
Yeah.
updated and then
Right.
what they were.
And I'm not disputing the fact that you guys did your homework and you did all your
Understood.
cost analysis. I get that. I'm just thinking of it in terms of what flexibility do we have
Yeah.
to try to ease some burden on the ratepayers? Because like I said, there's a lot of small time folks that are doing projects on their property that are paying these developer review fees,
Agreed.
and that's per sheet. That's a lot.
Agreed.
So
I
anyhow,
feel like we should look at this annually, just so we're clear. It could go down, it could, but when does anything go down? But then we can say we looked at this last year, not,
Yeah. Did we look at it last year? like
I
that.
don't know.
Yeah. I like that.
Yes, and to your point, I think I remember last year we looked at this fee. That definitely was, and I did the 5% smooth escalation.
Mm.
And I hear you, Director Ryan. I agree with you that is on the engineering service fee, it is the steep increase, and we could smoothly increase or get to that level where we fully recover costs. If that's what you like to see.
Yep.
And
whatever ideas you can come up with to take any burden off of ratepayers and customers of the agency, I'm all in favor of. So put your thinking cap on and you come up with some ideas, I'm all for it. So.
Right, and on the next slide, what we are suggesting is pumping zone variable charges. So this proposed to go in effect on July 1, 2027, will affect only customers specifically in those pumping zones, and it has to be in association with the electricity cost associated with the pumping of the water. So in blue columns, you can see maximum allowed charge for pumping zone by our current cost of service study, Prop 218, which looked at our electricity cost. And our current rate will under the maximum that's allowed. So we looked at how much it costs us to pump based on the electric cost and or pump zone. And those are the suggested increases.
But if electricity goes down, we can revise this.
Yes, of course. Mhm.
Well, I meant year after, the next year and the year after.
Right, this one we are suggesting for 2 fiscal years since we adopted the budget for 2 years. And we will have a new cost study that we'll be doing in fiscal year 28 to go into effect fiscal year 29. And then we can revisit that.
Okay.
If, that completes my presentation. And those are the options for the board. Based on the feedback, we'll go with some refinement of the fees
And some more background.
I'd
Yeah.
I'd
Okay.
like to propose option 2 and have staff go back and see what they can do to some of those
Yeah.
escalating fee costs to see if there's an opportunity to work on those numbers and
When were they last changed and look at the percentage differences.
good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item C, review and discuss board compensation policy, section 2.03.010, remuneration and reimbursement.
I'll take this one for the general manager since he's out. So we did survey some neighboring agencies. This is a proposed increase from the maximum 6 meetings per month to 10, and also looking at the individual per diem for each. With that you can see the staff recommendation is staff supports board direction on this. So it is open for discussion.
I don't know what discussion, I mean, does anybody have any comments? I have a couple of questions or issues relative to special district compensations. The list that was presented, we obviously have some districts that are well-heeled since they get vision, medical, and dental included in their compensation plans. I happen to know that some of our other local districts, special districts such as the North County Fire District only gets 4 compensation per diem, and North County Health Services only gets 6. So we're pretty much in line right now in terms of the maximum that you can have is 10 by law, is my understanding. It looks like many of the water districts have gone with 10, simply because that's the maximum, and I don't know what their utilization rates are. Personally, I'm a little miffed that this is coming up after we approved the budget, because the addition, while 36,000, I think, was the number that it represents, there's also expenses associated with those as well. So we're probably looking at closer to $50,000 annually, which is not an insignificant impact on our budgets. I think those are my personal opinions.
I don't have a problem with compensation, the amount, but since some of us are required to go to more meetings, or it is what it is. I think I can go up maybe 8 to 8 of them would be good for me. Or we can pull back and not go and not represent Rainbow. I don't know who else is going to Bonsall Chamber of Commerce and Avocado and Farm Bureau, and these are things that no one else has elected to go to.
I'd be in favor of increasing this to 8 because the feedback is excellent when one of us attends these things. And maybe not go as high as 10.
I
That'd be
agree.
my opinion.
My thoughts are, I really don't care about the number or the amount of reimbursement. My input would have more to do with the fact that the sort of the way the restrictions have been placed on the board, I'm not sure where those came from. But, you know, where you're saying you can have reimbursement for only 2 board meetings a month, 1 in-person meeting. You know, it's kind of like whatever that number is, whatever the board decides they want to do, even if it remains at 6, I just don't think that we should, you know, be giving out hall passes to 4th graders to tell us, you know, how many, imposing upon ourselves how many meetings of which kind we can go to. In other words, if it's 6 meetings, it's 6 meetings. You know, what difference does it make? What meetings those are? Why is the board forcing itself into buckets? And even on day restrictions, I mean, if you've got a meeting at Eastern Municipal Water District out in Paris, and you got to run to a JTA meeting the same day, why couldn't that be, you know, 2 of the 6 meetings? If it's 6 meetings, it's 6 meetings. We're all grown-ups. We manage our meetings the way we need to, instead of kind of restricting ourselves into these very parochial buckets. That doesn't make any sense to me. So that's my issue. I don't have an issue with the number or the amount. I just would like to see it.
So our district's as big as Rincon? Like, what are we familiar with? Like, Fallbrook's bigger, right? They have more people or more, the smaller,
I think we're the same.
it's a smaller
Same.
district.
To Fallbrook, yeah.
So I'm just saying they're 10. I'm not saying go 10, you know what I mean? But I'm aligned with Patty with 8. Ramona, that's crazy. Board meeting.
You know, another thing that the board could consider too is I went back and I looked at some history on some of the out-of-town conferences. I looked at previous board costs that are incurred on out-of-town meetings, and that's really, in my opinion, where the money is. You know, a 1-hour meeting for $150 is de minimis when you take into account. I've looked at history on certain board members that, you know, can cost $4,000 to $6,000 for, you know, an out-of-town meeting when you add airfare, hotel, lodging, travel reimbursement, and the like. I mean, that's expensive. So maybe whatever we do, if we do something as a board, we look at restricting how many out-of-town conferences each board member should be allowed to go to. Because that's where I think the savings is going to be. Maybe it's 1, maybe it's 2 a year. But, you know, you set a radius, you say anything outside of 70 miles or whatever that is, where you could attend something during the day on your own or drive your POV versus flying. You say, you know, doesn't matter what boards you're assigned to or what affiliations you have, you get 2 meetings a year and that's it. Because that's where the real cost of the board is, based on the history that I looked at and previous board members and how they use that travel privilege.
Any other recommendations to staff to consider?
Well, I'll say a few things. Since I've been on the board for 10 years, and I will tell you probably the first 4 years, Tom, when I got elected, he sat down with me and said that previous boards had no interest in doing anything. And so the very first time we had who's going to do what, Tom's sitting there and doing these eyes like, come on, because it doesn't want to do the CSDA. Nobody. I go, okay, I guess I'll volunteer. Came to Aqua. Anybody want to do it? Nobody wanted. And so, I said, okay, I want to be a representative, we'll represent Rainbow. But I can just tell you, it doesn't seem, I think you're going by the assumption that everybody goes to these things. I think Mr. Hamilton, if it's close, like San Diego or thing, but because he can't because of his horses, that's totally understandable. And I don't think everybody goes to these things for whatever reason. I think they're very beneficial.
Well, when you set policy, you're not just setting it for one person, you're setting it for the future. You may have opportunities where future board members may see it perfectly fine to go to 4 or 5 conferences a year. So we don't make policy based on just what happens right now or what's happened in the past, but try to set parameters for the future. Especially if you,
Well-
as a board, are deliberating, meeting reimbursement where you're actually doing the people's business, meaning committee meetings, board meetings, things that are relevant to the district and the ratepayers versus perhaps educating yourself through out-of-town conferences. I think it's important to set maybe some parameters for both ourselves and for the future in terms of how many of those conferences each board member can attend.
I see that point, but I think you also got to take the point, for example, the last conference, I was the only one that went through it. I mean, everybody,
Remember?
yeah, and I was the only one to
But we just
represent.
went to one 3 months earlier.
No, but that was CSDA. This was
No.
off.
No, Aqua. Aqua in November, December, we went to, and then this one was in May.
But the Aqua one's important because of the JPIA where I have to go and vote on representing, but I'm just saying.
You're just saying nobody, I'm just saying, like, I literally was looking out for money. Like, I'll go to the Indian Wells one, I'll go to the San Diego one, but things that cost the district money, like I hit the lottery going to the Delta, and I'm so appreciative of that, but do I ever have to go on another Delta tour? No. But I think your first year, you're like, oh, no one's gonna do it. I guess I'll do it. You know what I mean? I'm retired, like I can do these things. But now I can sit back. You guys have been here for a while, and I can sit back and say, I have no interest in CSDA, right? So I was like, I didn't know. No one volunteered for it. I'll do CSDA. I don't even know what it is, right? I'm a newbie. So lessons learned. I've learned a lot in the first year. And so now I can be like, I really like the Farm Bureau. I really like this. I feel like I can make a difference and represent Rainbow well in these certain areas. So, yeah, I like to save the district money in those situations, but I am asked to do a lot of meetings.
And I
Maybe that's because I'm a newbie and I'm like, I'll go.
but I have no problem like going to 8. But my point I'm trying to say is that what Greg's bringing up is if you're limiting someone to only go to 2, and then what if nobody wants to go again to something, which is, I think it's always beneficial to have someone from Rainbow there. And let's give me, for example, if I go both the Aquas and CSDA, no one's going, then we have no representation. Because you're saying that you're limited to only 2. And I think, again, I can just go by my experience. I think I can only remember one time, I think 4 of us went to one.
Mhm.
That's so unusual.
Yeah,
And it's typically 1 or 2. And
maybe we get like bathroom passes in high school and I'll hand you one of my passes. He can go for me,
Well,
right?
then maybe we just say 10 total as a board. This way, the board between itself has 10 opportunities to go to conferences. And if you've been to 2 and Hayden's busy taking care of horses, you go to 3. I'm just saying, but the real cost is in those conferences. And don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not
No.
saying that conferences aren't important. I think you do go to conferences, and I think they can be important. And sometimes for the ratepayer, they're not that important. But having said that, there should be enough opportunity with creating some limit to how many of those out-of-town conferences. And again, we're talking out-of-town conferences, we're talking about airfare, an expensive travel budget versus, local conferences, which wouldn't apply. But putting some guardrails on that, which is really where the real money and the real costs are, is where we should be focusing on trying to restrict ourselves for budget purposes, perhaps, and maybe not on individual meeting issues. But that's just a thought that I have. Looking at the numbers and how much, when you look at reimbursements for meetings and how much travel costs, it just makes sense to maybe put some guardrails on travel. Whatever that might be. Maybe it's 3 meetings, maybe it's 2, maybe it's, I don't know.
Then I'm just kind of curious then, for example, typically the meetings are usually in Monterey, typically, and then they rotate, then it's like in San Diego and the next one's going to be in Anaheim. So are you okay with people going to Anaheim since or?
You set a mileage limit on it, whatever that is. If it exceeds 70 miles or whatever the board decides, you try to, and this is something similar to what I had in my past life, is you set certain parameters based on distances where you're able, like, for example, San Diego, you could easily do a 1-day conference in San Diego, and that wouldn't necessarily be an out-of-town conference if it's within, say, 70 miles. But if it's outside of 70 miles, then it becomes an airfare issue, and it does add quite a bit of cost with lodging and housing and reimbursements and things like that.
Because I think the farthest one was we had Pasadena several years ago. So it's been Anaheim twice, Pasadena, San Diego twice. So are you okay with those or?
Well, that would be a board decision, what you would consider to be an out-of-town conference.
Oh, I think, and then you could say that anything that you need airfare. I think that'd be the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, unless you're driving to Las Vegas, and that's more expensive than airfare. So
Well-
that seems arbitrary to just say if it's an airfare. It's usually a mileage restriction to constitute an out-of-town conference. And that can be determined if the board is interested in putting some level of restriction on out-of-town travel. This is my thought, based on the numbers that I see and what really costs money. If we're sincere about trying to save strictly.
Julie, you brought this up. Do you have any comments on this? Like, what transparency do you need?
Julie.
My first thought is I think the board needs to reflect on this conversation and not make a final decision today. My second input is I've had the honor of being on the board, and I believe that our representation to Aqua and CSDA conferences has a volume of magnitude of not just representing the district, but learning phenomenal information from our colleagues. I feel that has a very big input on the bang for the buck for the ratepayers versus attending a meeting, let's say by Zoom, and no one even knows you're there except a name, which has a more lasting input. Board members, I believe, need to have that professional growth. We also need to represent our agency. The staff, I've always supported their participation in conferences. I would recommend that the board members reflect upon this and come back on looking at the quality, not just the quantity of the public funds being used to represent Rainbow Municipal Water District in a solid and professional manner. No comment. We have worked very hard for the CSDA Platinum Award. I would be very cautious on confining yourselves as a board that you are not able to attend the conference if we receive the award. As an educator, as an administrator, as a teacher, professional growth of quality is critical for an organization to stay vivid and involved in this in the emerging world. So I would recommend my comment. I hadn't planned to comment, but mine would be to look at the roles of the board in putting in a compensation? Are they truly representing the Rainbow Water District in that compensation? So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. We had a comment about attending 2 meetings in one day and the compensation is per meeting versus, to me, the 150 is a per diem. So if I had 5 meetings in one day, it would still be $50 because it's
Right.
a per diem.
Are you saying that's a legal restriction?
No, I'm asking you for clarification on what you.
No, it had to be more to do with the different sort of categories that are placed.
That I
To-
understand, yeah.
Okay, so you're just talking about.
You had made the
day,
comment about,
Single day,
doing an Eastern.
yeah,
Water District ad hoc meeting and then having to get to JPA meeting.
right.
You know, is that one meeting? Is that 2? Well, it's 2 meetings, but on a per diem, it's still $150.
Correct. The way it's written into the policy, that would only be reimbursable with 1 meeting. My point is this, as big boys and girls, if we're allowed 6 meetings a year or a month, how we use those meetings shouldn't be dictated arbitrarily by saying you can only have 1 meeting with staff, you can have 2 meetings for a board. Just to say, we've got 6 meetings. If they're blessed, then I would say that you maintain the meeting qualifications. But you don't try to segregate those meetings into buckets. In other words, you still maintain approved meetings, meaning committee meetings, board meetings,
But
training.
going back to your
conference meetings.
earlier comment, are you talking about changing the definition of compensation from a per diem to a per meeting definition?
I think if that's how you're trying to categorize it,
No,
yeah,
I'm-
perhaps. Yeah, in other words, what I'm saying is that the way these meetings are spelled out, they have a time limit on them of an hour, a minimum of an hour. My point is this, is if you have 6 meetings per month, we shouldn't be limiting ourselves to which of those meetings are reimbursable or not. As long as they fall within the categories that are approved in the ordinance, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, but there's a problem what you're just saying right
Yeah.
there, because
Tell me about
for
it.
example, when I go to on Monday, we have JPIA all day voting but on Tuesday, half the morning is JPIA and starting like at 1 o'clock starts Aqua. And so I am going to meetings in the morning with JPIA, and I'm also going to meetings in the afternoon that are Aqua. I just consider that 1 per diem. I don't consider that
Right.
different meeting.
That's same location though.
Yeah,
I don't even care if they're different locations, you get mileage.
I feel like that's rare that that's happened, but it has happened. I don't care.
But Michael, is it the same event? With
No,
the
it's
same purpose, or it's completely
completely different,
separate?
completely different.
Yeah, and so,
But aren't you-
if you have 6 meetings that you can attend and you attended those 2 meetings separately, unless there's a legal restriction on it, I don't see why that wouldn't count toward 2 of your 6
No,
months.
but it's per diem.
And
No,
So he's gone for 3 days, but he attends 2 different meetings, and on one day, the 2 different meetings. So that's actually 4 days according to a per meeting activity.
I lost my button here.
And maybe I'm not tracking, somebody can explain.
Well, let me rephrase that. He has a meeting with JPIA on Monday. On Tuesday, he has a meeting with JPIA and on Wednesday, he's
Rod, do you
under our
know?
current structure, that would be 3 per diems. Under a per meeting compensation, it would be 4 meetings. Because you have 2 in one day. So it's 1, 2, 1, which is 4 versus a per diem.
Yeah, I would just simply say that if those were separate meetings for separate purposes and they met the criteria here, then those would be 4 reimbursable meetings. And now you got 2 left for the rest of the month.
I've always understood it to be per diem. If we're
I've
being
also-
flown, if we've been flown up to Monterey, Sacramento, whatever, there's a cost incurred in that with our hotel. And I always thought the 150 is for the day, not starting to separate Aqua from JPIA, et cetera. Just my opinion.
Is that compensation for the time?
Why don't we let the guy who lost his voice talk?
Yeah, because, and that's because the statute has a per day language in there.
Okay, so you couldn't do that. Okay, well then that ends that conversation. Thank you.
So
for
it is-
bringing that.
It's
Should've-
strictly
you'd
a
have
per
saved us a
diem.
lot of time there, Alfred. I know you can't talk, but, okay, so the statute says it, that's what it is. But
Statute
having-
says per diem, but if you have 2 meetings in different locations, you still have mileage between the 2 locations.
Yeah. But how about restrictions on whether you can have only one reimbursable staff meeting? Like, in other words, why are we putting that?
But who has, I mean, this is
I
kind
don't-
of stupid. I don't think I've ever had just a staff meeting. What is that?
No, you never had to meet with the general manager. You've never gone out and done a site survey on a project and.
Yeah, but I would never charge the
I
district.
didn't
for
charge
that.
the district for it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no.
Why? That's a meeting. Aren't you learning things? Aren't you?
It's a tour. It's a tour of the district.
Yeah, I remember Tom.
Taking us, we spent almost all
All
day.
day.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and so I would never charge.
But
and then-
that was part of what I looked at, just education. It wasn't, God, I get we get $150.
So education and training doesn't fall into that one.
I
If
don't-
you're actually looking at the
I
district
don't-
and doing an evaluation.
If I went and sat down with Jake for 20 minutes, 30 minutes on something that has to do with district, I wouldn't charge the district for that, 'cause I wouldn't do it. That's just me.
I don't charge you. I have
I'm
no-
sorry to interrupt. Are we going to get to the next item on the agenda?
I'm sorry, say that again, Patty?
Are we going to get to the next item on the agenda? I think we're spending a lot of time on this.
Well, we need to-
Direction.
I, from what I've heard, if I can sort of capsulate, I tend to agree with Greg. I think we may be over constraining the types of meetings you can be compensated for. In other words, saying, oh, you can only have 2 board meetings a month. Well, what if you have a special board? You know, so I think we should do some relaxation on the requirements there. We're looking at per diem as opposed to per meeting compensation. Question is whether we want to go from 6 to some number up to 10. I think that's still open for discussion. The recommendation from 2 board members has been for 8.
I'd be open for 8 too.
Okay. So it's 3 for 8, 1 for 6. Do you have a vote?
I don't believe we're voting,
We're not voting,
Correct.
it's just a preference.
and I'll decide when it comes back.
Okay. Would there be anything else? Question on the consideration for whether or not distinction on out-of-town meetings versus local. And throwing up some sort of definitions for those.
Mileage.
Arlene, in your past experience, has that ever come up in terms of like setting geographic limits on what's considered sort of out of town travel versus local travel? And
I don't have personal experience. I haven't researched that, so
Okay.
I can't really
okay,
speak to that. I know some districts have rules for conferences that a quorum of the board will not all go to the same conference. That avoids any potential Brown Act issues. And that would inherit without saying each individual board member is limited to X number. it inherently limits the total number of people who could go to conferences and incur those travel expenses. I've seen that. But I would have to do more research to speak on the geographic limitations.
Got it.
There,
Yeah.
there's an exception, but the Brown conferences are okay. They don't, count, towards the violation of Brown Act go.
Right. Yeah, no, in Corona, we did have some definitions in terms of what qualified, especially, and we actually did it for staff because there was a lot of staff out of town travel and we were trying to be budget conscious. We tried to curb that in. We didn't want to eliminate training. We didn't want to eliminate travel altogether. So, I don't want anyone to hear what I'm not saying. I'm not talking about eliminating, I'm saying putting some guardrails on it so that either this board or future boards may not have the opportunity to take advantage of what I would consider to be excessive travel. But we did set out of town travel limits based on a geographical location of mileage. Meaning if it was considered out of 70 miles, it was considered out of town travel because most people aren't going to drive for a day or two. 70-mile trip. They may not, but that it was considered, it was based on mileage distances. So I don't know what that mileage would be, but that would be something that the board can consider if it comes back.
Okay. Anything else?
So are we just gonna take this and have it for review or something
Yeah,
crazy?
they'll come, take our input, and come back with some recommendations.
Okay.
Would the board like to see the current admin code with some red line changes in it, or?
Sure.
Sure. Therese doesn't have enough to do.
Well, I was gonna say, I think I heard her typing and I'm typing, so I think we captured the note. So.
Item D, review and discuss Optera Energy Services proposed project.
Okay, thank you. So we have Nancy with Optera. She's joining us via Zoom. Nancy, at any time that you'd like to start sharing your screen, you should be able to do so. Ahmed's enabled that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Staff also has asked Dr. Lon House to join, so he is on here as a panelist and is available for questions. Dr. House is a specialist when it comes to renewable energy and has worked with neighboring water agencies. And then after the Optera presentation, staff has a presentation as well before the board goes into discussion. So
All right, thank you.
Yeah, with that, Nancy, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much. And with me today, I have Jeff Woldheis, and then I have Sarisha Narella. Jeff is our project management director on this project, and then Sarisha Narella, she is the director of engineering and project management. And so what I will do is I will, I'm not real familiar with Zoom as I am with Teams, so I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And please let me know if you see my presentation. Do you see that?
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
All right, let me try something
And we
else.
can, if we have issues, we can pull it up in here and you can just tell us next slide. It's up to you.
Go ahead and do that. That's fine. And hopefully I can see it too. There you go. All right, great. Thank you. And I wish Jake could have been here, the general manager today, because I know when we met last week, we met with staff. Jake was there, and we met with Lon House. And so the goal today is to just go into a little bit more detail, clear up any questions that perhaps have come up. If you don't mind going to the second slide, please. We'll just do a quick review of the project. I know you know who I am. I know you know our history, but I'm happy to review anything more detailed. Just please stop me and let me know. We'll once again go over the scope of work, the financial analysis, and then talk about process next steps. Next slide, please. You've seen this slide before. Obviously, we have hundreds of public sector clients that have utilized the approach under Government Code 4217, which is the same process we're following here for the Rainbow Municipal Water District Energy Program. Next slide, please. You've seen this scope of work before. One of the things I did want to point out, there was a question last week with regards to the battery storage savings. And so the battery storage, which will be installed at Rainbow Heights Pump Station, there are two components of the savings there. There's the peak demand savings from 4 to 9 p.m. while the pump is pumping, and that's about $9,000 a year. The majority of the savings for the battery energy storage will come from the fact that once we install a battery storage system at Rainbow Heights Pump Station, this allows the water district to move from a basic time of use rate to the renewable energy rate, which is very attractive. And so that actually provides the water district with more than $200,000 a year in annual savings. And we'll talk about that in more detail with the financial analysis, but I just wanted to clear that up real fast because that did come up last week. But we're talking about a solar system at the headquarters, some EV charger systems, which are required underneath those solar shade structures in the parking area. Those are required by the Green Buildings Code of California. Obviously, your lighting will be upgraded. That will solve some deferred maintenance issue and provide you with new, fresh lighting for 20 years. And then the selected accounts, moving those to, excuse me, a more favorable rate. Some of those are close to 80 cents a kilowatt hour. Those will drop down by about at least 50 cents a kilowatt hour. Next slide, please. Wanted to show you, share with you where we've kind of landed with the solar arrays. We started out working with the district at a potential solar structure over at the Beck Reservoir. Then we moved to the west side dirt lot. Then we moved to the east side dirt lot. Now we're looking at a combination of the east side dirt lot as well as some 3 solar shade structures at the parking lot up there. At the top of the screen there. That's where we've landed on so far. All of these are utilizing the RES BCT program under the utility, which allows you to generate your electricity here at this site and then share those savings with all the other accounts that you have. Any questions on this slide?
I missed it. Is the dirt lot gone?
Is it gone from
Well, there's
being
solar there, so is it on the ground or is it a?
It's a ground mounted system, but it's up, it's high. Jeff can actually tell you how high it is if you want to know, but it is considered a ground mounted system. And then the operations that you currently have there now, the moving of the dirt, and you're leasing that out. I know the general manager had talked about possibly moving that operations to the west side. Not sure where that's landed. Chad, do you know?
Yeah, it will, to correct, we're actually not leasing it to the Peralts. There's an exchange of services for that. And with this layout, staff has not engaged with the Peralts to move them to the westerly side, but that would be required. That's a savings of, Robert, was that 120,000?
About 120 a year.
Approximately 120,000 in the material that we've received.
In the exchange.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that means we're gonna lose 120,000.
We could, we need to, if the board directs staff to proceed with this, we would coordinate with the Peralt company and ask them to relocate their operation to the westerly side of the yard.
Is that a
If they-
problem?
It could be.
This photograph's north, south, east, west, so they're talking about moving it farther off the street.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
To the
Matt,
left,
did you move your
left of
cursor?
the array.
There you go. So the Peralts, where their dirt operation would be moved to there's actually a chain link fence. You can see the tree line separating the 2 yards. They would go to that westerly side of the fence.
There's an entrance there?
The entrance is from Highway 395 or from the paved driveway coming in the main area there.
Okay. Okay.
And in staff's presentation, we talked specifically about,
They would come in the main driveway?
well,
No, they come in on the south end over here and come
Okay,
through the tree line.
okay. Which isn't there.
yes. Does that answer the board's questions? Staff will also go into this in our presentation, but we can, happy to dive into it
Yeah.
now as well.
Now let's keep going.
Next slide, please. Okay, financial analysis. I have 2 financial analyses here. One includes 1/2 of the grant that we've been talking about, the Inflation Reduction Grant. I believe you're all You're all very familiar with that. We talked about it a few times, but you can stop me if you want to. And then the next one, don't go to the next one yet, please, but just know we have another financial analysis that shows the full grant. We're very confident you'll be getting the full grant. You'll be receiving the full grant. But I did want to point out a couple things on this. So that once again, the savings are in the green, the costs are in the orange. The net savings on the right-hand side of the screen, those are savings that are excess savings, because not only does this project pay for itself, but there's also excess savings coming back to the general fund every year. So this is a very attractive program. It's an outstanding program. I also want to point out in the orange columns, this time we separated the measurement and verification column from the operations and maintenance. Last time we had them both together, the measurement and verification, operations and maintenance. We also had the 5-year proxy on the measurement and verification. What that means is typically our customers like a 5-year approach with the measurement and verifications, because after 5 years, most of our customers come to us and say, we're realizing the savings. We don't want to pay you anymore for measurement and verification. And so at that point, they typically stop paying for measurement and verification. They don't want it anymore. In this situation, since questions came up with regards to the battery storage savings and the rate change savings, we are happy to include the 20-year measurement and verification for that, for both the solar and the battery storage savings. So you'll see that taken out for 20 years. At the upper right-hand side, you'll see the cost of the program is $10.5 million. Once again, the program not only pays for itself, the installation of the program, but the financing costs are paid for under this program. The 20 years of operations and maintenance are paid for this program. So when we're telling you those savings are going to be there for the life of this program, we're going to be here maintaining your systems, your renewable systems, for the next 20 years. So you better be realizing those savings, because we're going to be engaged with you for the next 20 years. So this is with the half of the Inflation Reduction Grant. Now, one of the questions had come up, and I believe I shared this with you. The staff had mentioned, well, we're taking on all this risk with regard to the grant. We want Optera to take on some of this risk. And so what we did, and I have never known any other company to do this than Optera, we are willing to make sure that the district receives at least half of that grant. We're guaranteeing the district will receive half of that grant, $1.6 million. We're confident you'll receive the $3.2 million, but we are willing, and that's where you see the $1.6 million in the middle column there in the green. But if you move to the next slide, you'll see the cash flow with the $3.2 million grant, which we're confident you're going to be realizing. And that means not only is your program paid for again, not only is the financing paid for, not only is your 20 years of operations and maintenance paid for, but the district will receive excess savings annually after everything's paid for of $188,000 a year. It's an excellent program. Any questions on the cash flows before we go to the next slide? Okay. Questions?
Yeah.
Okay, next slide. So with regard to the grant, you've seen this also. Under the Biden administration that passed this grant in the first place in 2022, they had allowed the public entities to build their systems up to the end of 2030. Under the new federal administration that had came in, they actually shortened that window unless certain requirements are met. And so now that these requirements have been put into place, we're kind of at the end of this potential grant opportunity. And I believe we shared this before. There's something called safe harbor. If the district pays for a certain percentage of their renewable system to their contractor, in this case, Optera, if the district decides to move forward with this at the June 23rd meeting, Optera would immediately invoice the water district for that percentage, $648,000 and change. We receive that money from the water district into the account before July 2nd. That gives us the opportunity to not only help you secure that grant, but gives us a longer time frame to build this. Now, we don't believe there'll be a problem installing this prior to the end of 2027, beginning of 2028, but having that excess time is a big help because we all know the utilities have a tendency to drag their feet. Without this safe harbor, we must receive permission to operate from the utility by the end of 2027. But having this safe harbor allows us actually to go into up to 2030. So if we don't receive safe harbor from the utility until January or February of 2027, you'll still receive your grant. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I didn't put anybody to sleep here. Next slide. So now, Chad and Robert, I know we talked about Government Code 4217. Did we ever discuss this with the board, even at our February 27th meeting? Does this sound familiar to the board?
I believe so. This is what gives the district the ability to sole source and not go out to bid or issue an RFP, and this was vetted by general counsel.
It
I-
does, it does, but it also does so much more than that. And so do you mind if I take a minute to talk about this?
That is up to the board. Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, I just wanted to point out the code we're using on this is Government Code 4217, and all those hundreds of customers that I showed you previously on that slide in the beginning, they've all utilized this code. And this was passed in 1983. And the reason this code was passed was because so many public entities were forced to choose the low bid provider for their construction projects. And what they were running into is they weren't able to specify energy efficient equipment. They weren't able to get the equipment that they wanted to. They got equipment that was subpar. They were able to get a low bid for a price on a project. And then guess what? Those low bid companies, they would come in and change order them, right? Director Mack, you mentioned that previously. Are you going to come in and change order us, right? So this code was passed to allow public entities to choose to work with a proven contractor like Optera, who, next slide, please, who provides a turnkey solution all the way from design to installation, takes it through permitting, takes it all the way through helping you receive your grants, your incentives, ongoing operations and maintenance of the system. This contractor that you're choosing is now on the hook with you for the long term. You have you have contractor accountability. It's also the most expeditious process that allows the energy savings that are going to pay for the project. This allows them to start accruing before you even have to start paying for the project, the financing of the project. Next slide, please. And that's why I wanted to share with you. Performance contracting utilizing Government Code 4217, there are some big differences between what we're providing here under this process and the low bid process. Another, another big point about this is since you're allowing us, Optera, or one contractor under this Government Code 4217 to handle everything from design, installation, ongoing services, you have one single point of contact. Under low bid, you get your initial low bid, the public entity themselves, they're holding all the contracts with all the subcontractors. If you've got a problem, let's say with your solar shade structure, let's say you're structural, you come to your structural person and say this isn't working. You come to your electrical contractor and say something's not right here. You're holding all those contracts under a low bid situation. Then you typically run into some finger pointing. Structural may say, well, that's not my problem, it's electrical, and vice versa. Under a performance contract, you come to your one contractor and say something's not working, you go fix it. That's up to us to do that. It requires a lot less resources of the public entity who's utilizing performance contracting. Next slide. And then I have the last two slides here about this type of process, low bid versus performance contracting. Excuse me, there are tremendous risks when you're talking about a low bid. It's a lengthy process. There's no accountability of ongoing performance. Whereas next slide. Under performance contracting, like I mentioned before, we're here for the long term. We're here for the next 20 years with you. There's so much accountability. And then next slide, please. Continue with the idea of process here. This is where we are. You've seen this before. If this is something the district would like to move forward with, this project that does pay for itself, it pays for all the financing costs, it pays for 20 years of ongoing maintenance and operations, then the district down at the bottom, we're here today at June 9th, that this is something the district wanted to move forward with, then they would post the public hearing. It has to be posted 2 weeks prior to the board, 2 weeks prior to the board meeting where approval would happen. That's where we are today. And then moving forward, if that's what happens, then Optera would get to work. And we're anticipating that everything would be finished, permission to operate would be received, ongoing maintenance would start first quarter of 2028. So I know you've seen a lot of the same slides. We've talked about some new concepts today. Any questions for me?
Any questions from the board at this time? Okay. Thank you, Nancy.
My pleasure. Would you like us to stay on?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Are we gonna hear from Dr. Lonhouse?
You can ask Dr. House questions at any time you'd like.
Sure. So
Dr. House, can you unmute yourself, please?
can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
So I guess the obvious question would be, you kind of worked parallel with our staff as a third party sort of evaluator of this proposal. Can you just, for the benefit of the board, go over kind of your analysis in terms of the pluses and the minuses in this proposal?
Sure. Optera is a good company. They have a lot of contracts and they have almost no complaints about them. So if it's a concern about the company, I don't think that you that you have any with them. There are some questions about some of the costs that we disagree on in their presentation. But I guess the big issue for the board is that what you're looking at now is the world as it exists. And you have a district right next to you, Valley Center, that had something that was very similar to this. And they decided not to do it because rates are going to change. There's going to be other things that are going to happen. And, for example, there's a lot of talk about doing away with daylight savings. Well, in the analysis I did for Valley Center, that doing away with daylight savings took an hour a day out of the on-peak for the solar and reduced the RESBCT value by almost 60%. So, and they had other things that they were concerned with. So I guess it's something for you decision makers to look at. If the world stays the same, rates don't change, we don't have any things like that, then the presentation is probably correct. But in my opinion, 20 or 30 years from now are going to look very different than they do today. And you guys can think about what San Diego rates were 20 years ago. Now, Optera says that they will validate, the energy savings that you get. And then I guess that I actually have a question for Nancy, that is, what happens if you don't get the savings that are shown up in that pro forma? What is the reaction, or how does Optera deal with a program that is not producing the savings that were originally forecasted.
So for example, with the solar and the battery storage, we will place data acquisition equipment on the systems to monitor them. And if they aren't generating what they're supposed to be generating, there are a couple ways we can deal with it. For the solar systems, we can add more solar panels, or we can just simply write a check for the difference in the savings that you're realizing. It's the same thing with the battery storage. We will make it right. In terms of, I do have to say in terms of rates, if you look at rates 20 years ago, they were much less. They've been going up significantly. We've used a very conservative 5.7% escalator on our electricity rates. So I do want to address that. And then daylight savings, my goodness, I wish they would stop changing the time change myself. It's just crazy. But that is something that we voted on and it got thrown out, and I would be shocked if it ever happened. I don't think they'll ever happen. And part of the reason I have to say what I've read is strictly economics. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I don't believe that's ever going to happen based on everything I've read. So.
Director Irvin, we do have specific slides that Dr. House helped us prepare in this.
That you're going to be part of your presentation?
Correct.
Okay, that's
Correct.
fine.
If there is a shortfall, let's say the rates increase at a sharper rate than you anticipated, are we on the hook for that or you?
So if your rates increase even higher than what we're using a very conservative number. Your rates have increased at least over 7% a year. We're using a 5.7% escalation. Our numbers are always going to be conservative. You will always save more than what we're saying you will save. And so your rates have been escalating much higher than that. We anticipate that SDG&E will continue to raise their rates. So if your rates keep going up, you're going to save even more than what we're projecting.
You understand?
Yes.
I'm struggling with, they raise their rates.
More savings.
You're generating your own power at this point. So not only are you saving, let's say, 30 cents a kilowatt hour, if it goes up to 35, you're saving 35 cents a kilowatt hour. As that rate continues to go up, you're saving more and more money because you're generating your own power. Does that make sense?
You're actually cost avoiding.
Correct.
Because
Correct.
it's a different way of saying it, but you're cost avoiding because those rates are higher, but since you're self-generating, you're not paying those higher rates. Therefore, you're accumulating your savings.
Okay.
You there?
Okay. Partially there.
Keep diving into the weeds.
No, this is good discussion. Dr. Lonhouse, what are your thoughts with regard to the escalator that they used? I think there's empirical evidence to show that those are conservative estimates. If you're concerned about things changing, what types of things would be changing that would cause you to have any concerns over those escalator estimates?
Remember, this is not a net energy metered program. What you're getting is you generate electricity at one place, and you're getting a portion of the San Diego rates. You're getting the generation component of those rates. And that's so much money. And then that applies to the other accounts that you've got. It applies to the generation component of the other accounts. So you have two issues that are going on. One is you have the general increase in rates, but the other, which is actually more dangerous, is you have the allocation of rates between fixed charges, demand charges, and energy charges. And so Altera's right. In the last, since about 2000, the rates have gone up about 7% a year. Prior to that, they went up less than that, about 4% a year. But you guys read the same things that I read, and rates in California are a problem. Rates in San Diego are the most expensive of the investor-owned utilities in California. So you've been seeing all of this talk about we have to do something to reduce electricity rates. if the rate component of the generation rate component goes up, that's correct. You will be getting savings. But if it goes down, they decided to take rates from the energy component and stick it in demand charges or other fixed charges, then that's where you're going to run into trouble, because you're not going to be either generating as much electricity at your generation site or have as much to go to your benefiting account sites. But like I said, Optera is a good company, and solar, I mean, I've only run into one problem that I've had, and it happened to be Valley Center. And you guys know what Valley Center had. They had that Bestworth project, and they installed some very poor initially solar panels, and they degraded rather rapidly. And so we had about a 4 or 5 year negotiation with them on what are you guys going to do with this kind of stuff. But I don't think that you're going to run into that problem. So I think the company's okay. I think the technology's okay. The risk is pretty much a political risk, which is what is going to happen to electric rates in California, and how are they going to be reallocated? Because that's what you're susceptible to. And if rates go down, like the legislature, of course, they complain about it all the time, but if rates go down, then the savings will not be as large as are forecasted. If rates go up, the savings will be larger.
Since we're looking at a 30-year horizon, what technological advancements do you see coming down the road that would enable generation to be cheaper than what it is now? Obviously, hydroelectric is off the table. Are you seeing a resurgence in nuclear that could drive generation rates down? I mean, what's kind of in your future view in terms of technology that could reduce rates?
Well, you can ask a question for everywhere but California.
Exactly.
The technology there.
One thing that actually surprised me as a utility planner is artificial intelligence and data centers. You look at them, and the demand for electricity is just skyrocketing from those things. And I don't know if you guys have any that are going into your area, but they're like 50 megawatts of a data center.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a small one.
Right.
And where is that going to come from? Well, you've got the small nuclear facilities and you've got things like that. But there are limits as to how low you can go on solar and how low you can go on wind. And part of what you're dealing with, or a lot of what you're dealing with in California, are these utility contracts for these big solar facilities and some big wind facilities that were pretty expensive. Because if you look at current utility contracts, they're running about 4 or 5 cents a kilowatt hour. Now that's not being necessarily translated over into the final rates you play don't necessarily reflect that. So that's a long-winded answer to say, I don't know. There's a lot of push. There's a lot of electricity that's going to need to be produced somewhere. And there are limits in pennies per kilowatt hour from wind and solar. And I don't know what those little nuclear plants that they're planning on putting in are going to do. They're going to be too cheap to meter or so. So that is a long-winded explanation to say, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway on what you just said is that you don't really see any technology advances, at least in the state of California, that would tend to favor lower rates. I mean, everything points toward future higher rates. And I understand that, we don't have a crystal ball, but be amazed to see nuclear make a resurgence back in California, and that's really going to be your cheapest energy. But within the environmental concerns, I mean, state would have to change a lot in order to move forward with that technology. Even the suitcase nukes, that Oklo makes or Cameco, that might have possibility, but those are purpose-driven units for the data centers, though that's not for the wider distribution of the publicly owned utilities. So again, I'm just everything in this analysis built really on the escalation factor for generation. And that's the $1 million question is what do you see that's going to actually make energy rates cheaper in California? And I don't know. I know my house, I'd be betting on rates going higher.
The system cannot sustain 7% annual escalation in rates forever. Just like you guys, right? If your water rates were going up 7% a year for 20 years, what would happen to your water usage? So there's some limit as to how fast and how much a product price can increase before, and this is what the counter to your argument is. What could happen is when there is some price elasticity in electricity, and at some point, I guess the counter to your argument is there something out there that is going to dramatically reduce electricity usage in the residential sector or the commercial sector? Because that would have exactly the same effect as a cheap new generation source. And I think that is a much more likely scenario, that there will be something out there that will reduce electricity usage. Super efficient air conditioners. I don't know what they are. But on all the analyses that I do, if the board wants an escalator that is, past few years, 7%, that's fine. But I will always come in with a 5 or even a 3% escalator to see what happens and what risk you are to how sensitive the program is to the escalation rate. Because we don't know what's going to happen with this. And, if worse comes to worse, if there's some big economic issue that occurs, you guys are still paying those prices, regardless of whether you need that electricity or not.
Well, we're offsetting we're generating, we're offsetting costs for them. It's not a PPA where they're paying for generation. Jeff, do you want to talk about the fact that we're only including the generation escalation or the generation cost?
And I also would like to remind the board, we do have this, and I think a lot more discussion, especially between the board and Dr. House, will come out of the staff presentation as well. But I defer fully to the board if you'd like more people from Optera to weigh in.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Jeff, are you able to speak, or do we need Ahmed to allow you?
Try to make him panelist, but I will accept it. Turning now then.
Sarisha, are you able to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So when up with the 5.7 escalator, we just included the generation cost, because as Dr. Lounhouse says, the electricity cost is divided into three different portions, right? One is a fixed cost, which is very small, and one is generation cost, and one is the transmission cost. So our graphs that we showed to the board and the staff, I don't know, a month ago or even 1.5 months ago, so that shows only the generation portion. We took only the generation portion of the rate schedule through the last 10 years, and then we showed how that increased, and that 5.7 came only from the generation portion, not from the whole rate.
It's very conservative.
My only concern would be, so you, all of your contracts, Nancy, that you have, you kind of backstop those savings corporately, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if there was some sort of monumental shift in the cost of energy and you're backstopping all these contracts, what's the solvency of your company?
Well, we've been around for 50 years. We've been doing this. We've been around for 50 years. We've been providing performance contracts. Now, solar, we've been installing since about, the early 2000s. So we've been doing this a very long time.
20 years, yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry?
Question. Did not answer the question.
Patty, you need to mute.
Ron.
I'm sorry. I missed something there.
You got broken into.
No, I guess all I'm saying is that you haven't had an issue where you've had to backstop rates in any of your contracts yet, because prices have been going up. But as Dr. Longhouse suggests, if there was some technological advancement which drove down the generation cost, you would find yourself with all of those contracts having to backstop them. And my question would be, what's the risk factor with your ability to backstop all those contracts if there was some technological advancement that caused energy rates to go down rather than up?
So we're guaranteeing that you are going to generate so many kilowatt hours on your solar. And then we're making these assumptions based on the last, 10 years or so of your utility rates. And so what we're guaranteeing is the generation. And Sarisha, you're more than welcome to jump in if you have a better way of saying this.
Yeah. So just like how Nancy says, so let's say that we are guaranteeing 100 kWh of your solar, right? So in year 5, if you are producing only 95 kWh for whatever reason, then Optera will pay you for that 5 kWh times the electricity cost that we showed in the contract for that year 5. Then that's what our company will pay you, the difference between that. Does it make sense?
Did we lose you?
No.
Okay, just making sure.
Maybe you could rephrase that for us, Nancy. I'm sorry. I wasn't following.
Okay, so if we're guaranteeing that you're going to generate 100, let's say 100 kWh, let's just use 100 to make it easy. And then in year 5, you're only generating 95 kWh, we have to pay you the difference. And
Okay.
that difference, what we pay you is based on our rate schedule that's in the contract. And that rate
Okay.
schedule is based on that 5.7% escalation, which we
Okay.
fully, does that?
Yeah, that answered my question.
Okay, thank you.
I guess just the fact that SDG&E rates are likely to continue to go up, but what if SDG&E transfers those costs over to the transmission rate? How does that then affect this program?
I don't know how they could do that, simply because SDG&E always says, they're not charging us for the commodity portion, right? They're getting that commodity from somebody else and passing that on to the ratepayers. So I don't see how they could take that commodity portion of that cost and then start jumbling that around with the transmission and distribution costs. And Dr. Lonhouse, perhaps you know how they could do that, but I can't even imagine how they could do that.
And 80% of the SDG&D generation, it comes from the CCAs, right? And then their only job is to get money for this generation. If it goes down, then they cannot exist basically. Or if only this goes down and not the transmission, so.
Yeah, I don't see how SDG&E can change anything with regard to that commodity. They say over and over again, oh, look, your rates are what they are because we're paying the outside providers for that energy that you're using, that commodity. So
Well, I
Wholesale and retail.
I have a question for you. The stuff that I was reading, that the utility companies, when they're going to, was it UPC, when they're complaining, what I read was, especially the last time, and they were denied what they were asking for, they were saying that because of solar and people are going to that, they are losing a lot of money. And so they wanted to do some of their cost to fix cost. And they were proposing, like I haven't had an electric bill in like 12 years. I've had solar. But then what SDG was proposing was like a fixed cost for me, like $40 and some odd cents per month, just to be, as like the water district, you are connected. And so you may not use any water, right? But you are paying a fee for connection. And that's where, and it got shot down, whatever it was last year, but that doesn't mean it's not going to get shot down again. So then my concern would be if they start moving some of these fees to fixed cost, then we could theoretically be in trouble.
well, that fixed cost is now showing up on my bill at $24 a month, $24.95 a month under in SDG&E territory. So once again, I have solar and they're not making money off of me based on the fact that I'm generating my own solar. So they provided a fixed cost. They're not going to be, that has nothing to do with what you're generating. That has nothing to do with your rates. It has to do with the fact, like you said, they are losing money. And you look at that Temecula Valley Power Link that they want to install. They're adding all those transmission lines. Our rates are not going to go down.
Yeah,
They're
but
not
I think you don't understand what I'm saying. If they move it to a fixed cost, in theory, they could lower the cost per kilowatt, and they're just going to get you on the other end
Yeah.
by a fixed cost. And that's where then all of a sudden we are not getting, because what we're making is not going to be paying off the loan, because now the fixed costs went drastically up and what you're paying for kilowatt went down.
Well, I believe the savings on the kilowatt hours is maybe a penny or something. It's not it's a significant drop in the commodity costs. I do know that. So
Right now, fixed cost is just 1% of the total bill. All of your accounts right now has a fixed cost, which is, it doesn't matter on the kWh, just the dollar amount, right? That's like for commercial pumping rates, it's like 300 or 400, that's it, compared to thousands of dollars on the bill. So fixed costs cannot go up that much drastically. It's not based on the usage at all. It's just for the connection, how you're describing for the water meters, right? That's it, just for the connection.
We hear
Doctor,
from staff.
I was going to ask if we could just hear from Dr. Lonhouse on that issue regarding transmission and distribution. Any thoughts on whether that's feasible or that's legal within public utilities guideline?
The issue that you guys are facing, that you just discussed, had to do with net energy metering, and primarily for residential customers. And what it allowed you to do, if you got in early enough, it allowed you to not have any bill at all. And so the utilities went in and they said, hey, we're still paying for the meter, we're paying for the wires, we're paying for this kind of stuff, so we need something. So what they ended up doing is they ended up shutting what we called net energy metering 1, and then went into, well, net energy metering 2 for the next tranche. And now they have something called solar. We always call it NEM3, but it's solar something or another, solar benefit, in which you get, if you're a new residential customer, you get wholesale prices hourly. Okay. So that's what happened on particularly on the residential side. It doesn't directly apply to this project because they didn't have this sort of the ability for large customers to completely obviate their total bill. That being said, it's interesting to go back and look at what this particular technology, the DGR tariff did, and it's changed quite a bit. Remember, one of the things that they did 4 or 5 years ago is back in the old days, the peak demand period used to be noon to 6. You probably, if you're old enough, you remember that. Well, solar just produced a lot of electricity at that time. And remember what happened is they said, okay, we're going to switch it because there's so much solar out there. And now our new demand period, on peak demand period, in which you get paid the most when you generate, is 4 to 9 at night or so. So that's sort of the other thing that's going on is they can shove some costs back and forth. They don't do it very much in San Diego between generation and fixed charges. They can also change time of use. And they could make, conceivably, they could make the super off peak between noon and 6 every day, and that would gut the solar industry because that's the lowest amount. That's the lowest you'll ever get paid. So I don't know if that will ever happen, but those are just things that you as decision makers kind of need to look at and say, what is my risk tolerance for this? Because electric rate design in California is fairly fluid. And you can look back just a few years and see significant changes in the way that rates are set and the time of use periods and things like that. And all I'm saying is that it's not going to stay stable for the next 30 years. It's going to change. I don't know where it's going to go and what it's going to do, but it's not going to be exactly the same. And you guys need to decide if you've got enough protection under this proposal that you're comfortable adopting it.
And I do want to point out with regard to rates, once a contract is signed, you are locked into that rate for 10 years. So yes, they may manipulate the rates, but you're still locked into that rate then moving forward for 10 years. Srisha, do you have anything else?
Yeah, so you're right, Dr. House. So when they moved the peak timing from 12 to 4 to 4 to 9, so the customers that have solar are already at the time, they gave a 10-year lock-in period for them. So that happened in 2017, I think, and then now they have a lock-in period till 2027. When they did that, they did it last time. So they logged in for the existing customers because they cannot change on them the next day, right? So they did give that lock-in period for them.
And I think everything being discussed right now, a lot of it hypothetical could be that they are risks. Staff has identified additional risks as well.
Unless there are any specific questions, I'd like to move on to the staff presentation. We can always circle back.
Okay. Okay. So staff has met. We've been meeting several times. We met again earlier in the week to discuss. Your executive management team does have a unanimous recommendation for the board at the conclusion of this, but just to get started upfront, we didn't want to bury the lead. Staff has identified significant risks that we would like the board to consider about moving forward. And these are the things that we're aware of. The things that we're not aware of, to quote Rumsfeld, the unknown unknowns, we don't know. These are what we were able to think of in very short time. And just remind the board, as we go through our CIP and the planning that goes into this, this is extremely rushed for this team, that we're being asked to do something that should take a year or more and doing it in less than 2 months. And those are things that outside of everyone's control to do so. We do have some, we asked Dr. House to provide some, and so we've already touched on a lot of those, but we will hone on even more. So the financial variables and the impact on the ROI, what has not talked about and is not in any of the Optera tables is the environmental compliance. CEQA, we're estimating that to be roughly $200,000, take at least 6 months to do. That's a rough estimate. And the SDG&E infrastructure upgrades, we've asked Optera multiple times what we think that could be, and there is no answer. SDG&E will not talk to us. This is not a project yet until we actually have a project, pay deposit, have an electrical engineer design these plans. So this is just a complete unknown, but we know it's going to be significant. So that is a huge, huge red flag for staff. And then the fact that the savings that are being included aren't necessarily dependent to the solar panels themselves. And these are changing our rates. We should do that. We've been looking into doing that. That is something that staff would do. And then upgrading the lighting as updated. This does not have to do anything with solar panels at the district. These are realized savings that are included in their overall project as savings, but these can be done with or without this program. The long-term forecasting, again, that's kind of what this board has been discussing this time, is that what is it going to do? And as Dr. House has said, I don't know. No one knows. I think that's kind of the uncertainty we're all feeling. The batteries for the battery backup and doing that, we have looked into that. And when I say looked into it, it's based on the costs and the projections that Optera has provided. It's a good idea. We feel that there are far less expensive options that we could do if that was something that the board would like staff to look into. And then just a smaller project scope, something that doesn't require financing in the tens of millions of dollars is something that we'd like to identify. Gonna call on our CFO for, yes.
Put us to sleep. I'll be brave. This project will have to do financing for 11.7 million right at the beginning. And this is based on the table that Optera is presenting. I use their payment model. But what is not really they're showing is the safe harbor payment that will have to be made, 648,000 on July 2. It's not in our budget. We will have to draw on the reserves and we'll lose some interest savings because we'll have to pay that. I use the table for the payments. If we're going to pull the loan in July, then and not make any payments until the project is complete on that loan, we'll be accruing about 500,000 in interest. And I use the same rate that what Optera is suggesting for the loan, 4.31% on 11.7 million. That's about $500,000 in interest per year. And using their payment, the table didn't adapt probably because of the interest that will accrue at about 950,000. Next slide. This is our current debt and how it's going to look like with adding the 11.7 million. The first payment, as per Optera, is going to be in fiscal year 28. And I use the most favorable option with us getting a full grant. So the 3.3 million on the fiscal year 28 will be covered by grant, but 708,000 of that payment will need to come from elsewhere, like covered by rates. And then we'll see how the loan is progressing based on Optera's schedule. On next slide. And again, the concerns here that impact on the water rates, that will be impact on the fixed rate. Fixed rates will have to go up by 4.5%. And I know Director Irvine really doesn't like increasing fixed rates. So when we paying for debt, servicing debt, it has to be coming from the fixed rates, and then the savings, I know up there are showing net savings, but they're really coming from the variable side because of the electricity use. The downside to that, if we sell less water per year, then there will be less electricity needed, then it will be less savings per year. So that both sides that we look at right here.
So that would put pressure on fixed rates.
It will be definitely when we're doing a new rate study in fiscal year 28 for 29, that will be looked at as a pressure on the fixed.
Okay.
Next. All right. Wastewater fund. Our wastewater fund is not doing so good. We're trying to recover it. And since this is a general project, CAP project for solar that will benefit water, headquarters, and wastewater, we have to split it by each fund. 87% of it will be covered by water fund rates, but the rest 13% has to be covered by wastewater. I did calculation, so it's going to be 139,000 of that loan has to be covered by wastewater fund. And you know, we have upcoming 20 million in CAP for North River Road pipeline upsizing. That will definitely make it more difficult to borrow more money when you have additional loans affecting the wastewater fund. So that's what I want the board to consider. The loan, the debt to income ratio. And we are already maxed out by how much we can increase wastewater rates. It's the 13% as per our Prop 218 and the cost of service study. So we'll require a new study if we want, we would need to increase.
What's the
further.
potential moratorium on development if sewer improvements are, oh, okay. So
If
then
we-
no more havens and no more wastewater.
We are near capacity with our agreement with the city of Oceanside, hence why we need to upgrade North River Road. If we aren't able to do that CIP, that is a known potential risk.
That's all for me. My
That was fast, Constantine.
Good job, Constantine. All right, so some logistical questions that come up. If this does come into the easterly side of our lower yard, Director Hoffman, you asked, so how does the Peralts get to the area? Well, they're either driving through the dirt and they're accessing the westerly yard, or they're using our paved driveway, which is a ton of heavy equipment that's
And
not
dirt.
normally on it. So access around the solar panels is of concern. The carports that are being proposed up top and in the parking lot just outside this boardroom, we have logistical concerns of, is this going to impede and limit our access to our heavy equipment? We have semi trucks, dump trucks, the modular trailers just got delivered. Are we now blocking ourselves on that? The proposed cleaning schedule that's provided by Optera says twice yearly. If you park your car in our driveway with our current operation, it's dirty by the end of the day. And so staff just has very serious concerns that twice yearly is not going to be anywhere sufficient to keep these panels at their optimum rate. What the washing frequency is, we have no idea, but we just don't think it's twice per year. And then the location, it was mentioned at the previous board meeting that this project going forward, it ties us to headquarters at this facility. And the board mentioned, well, if we move somewhere else, let's just move these panels. Staff feels that would be at a significant cost to do so. It's not that it can't be done, just at a cost, again, an
Not
unknown
practical.
order of magnitude.
Can you go back to that?
Yes.
slide? Can't you cut through on the south side to the west lot?
There,
Right in the-
there is a chain link fence that we could open up and absolutely make a gate.
So
Absolutely.
Pearl could come through there.
They could. It's not
What's
there.
there now?
It's
There's trees and a fence.
No,
Yeah.
I meant this stuff.
That is all the district's storage. So that's our material storage of pipe, pressure reducing stations, valves, the material, the rock, the asphalt, sand, all of that.
Okay.
It's also where we
It
spoil.
could be
material.
consolidated.
It could be consolidated.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about this. In the Optera presentation, it says this is going to save staff time. We don't necessarily feel like we just adopted a 2-year budget. We have the CIP, staff is moving. If the board decides to redirect staff, we will do that, but it is redirecting from what we've already planned to do. We've talked about the potential change to daylight savings time and that's impact on this program. The projected savings have decreased since originally proposed and remain subject to change. We put this one in here because each time we get a table from Optera, the dollars change, and they typically, on the savings side, they are going down. And when the board presentation today was given to us last week, and staff is meeting, and we're coming up and we're analyzing it, it was probably 3/4 of the way through our meeting, an updated PowerPoint from Optera was sent. This gives us large concern because in their presentation, it says, the board at the public hearing will be given the final contract at the same time.
Then you need to vote on it.
This is not how we like to operate as staff and with our board. So that was of interest. And then as Constantine said, to secure that safe harbor, that payment is needed, but it has to be in Optera's account before July 3rd. So that's why it's done there on the 2nd. We're coming up here on the holiday.
Part of the rush is to get the Inflation Reduction Act monies.
Correct.
Have we done an analysis of whether, if there are, what the timeline would be for an ROI if that wasn't in the picture?
That was in Optera's presentation. That was her first table. They're backstopping half of the grant. And so that's what that one showed.
I'm saying throw the grant out altogether.
Oh, I'm going to defer to Dr. House. I believe the project does not pencil out at all.
Okay. In other words, if we said, we're not going to rush, we're going to take our time, we're going to accept the fact that we'll lose the Inflation Reduction Act grant, what you're saying is it doesn't pencil out.
Dr. House, could you weigh in on that, please? Am I correct? And if not, correct me.
I'm going to actually defer to Optera on that. I don't think so, but I haven't done the calculation, so I am not going to. I don't think it is, but I haven't done the calculation, and they probably have, so I'll defer to them.
We haven't run it without the grant because the grant is a viable grant. It's absolutely there.
I understand it's viable, but we're also being asked to make a decision and take an awful lot of risk up front. And my question is in terms of mitigating that risk, does this project work without the grant? If it doesn't, then
I don't know. We did not run it without the grant because we know the grant's available. And I'm happy to address a lot of these other questions that have come up.
It's an excellent question, though. So we asked Dr. House to prepare it. Most of this you've already had discussion on. I'll leave it up just so you have a moment to read it and we can, again, like I said, dive into the weeds on any one of these. We talked, it's like the board knew what we wanted to talk about, so. Let me know when you're ready for me to advance this one. Yep. And then just our assessment. Again, you have a unanimous assessment from your executive management team. The potential savings do exist. There are risks and the opportunity, both are high. It's out of our comfort zone. The savings are not certain, but the debt is. We've talked a lot about that. And then just the variables that are outside the district's control, we feel could negate the potential savings. At this time and for these reasons, we are not recommending that the board proceed with this project. That said, and if the general manager was here, we've all been in communication with him over the last several weeks. If the board chooses to do so, we will, of course, absolutely make this the best possible project.
I'd like one thing. I've had solar for 12 years and the company that installed was a company called NRG, and it was a 20-year lease, which then I bought out anyway, but they assured me they are a huge company They are out of Texas. They have like something ridiculous, like 20,000 employees. They sponsored San Francisco's football. That's actually called NRG Stadium. But what I found out was about 2 years ago, NRG, that was my contract was with, they transferred everything over to a company called Spruce. And my system is having some issues, and contacting NRG said, well, we transferred everything over. We're no longer liable. And talking to Spruce, I don't know what's going on there, but I've been dealing with them for about 3 months to try to get some stuff resolved. And they're just like pushing things off. And I finally got talking to Spruce that they don't even have employees to make repairs. And if they okay it, then they will pay a third party to come out. And to me, it's kind of like, it seems to me like a doctor thing where they don't want to pay. And so you might have to legally sue them to get them to repair the system. And my concern to you, ma'am, is there is no guarantee that if we had a contract with you for 20 or 30 years, that what if something did happen to your company, then we're left on the hook. Or what I'm experiencing, you transfer all rights to another company and they're not as good as what you were or would have done. And so that's the other thing I'm concerned, because I'm experiencing there's no guarantees that the life of this contract you're going to be around.
I can't speak to residential because I've seen a lot of residential companies come and go, and a few even commercial companies, but we have the history. Dr. Lonhouse did his thorough investigation on us. We've been here. We anticipate being here. I understand what you're saying, and I'm sorry to hear that you had to go through this. I don't even know what to say to that, because we've been around for 50 years. We've been installing solar for more than 20 years. We don't anticipate anything happening. I think if there were any customers that had any complaints, Dr. Lonhouse would have found them for us.
Yeah, that's my only concern.
I'm more concerned about the other risks.
With regard to the other risks, the CEQA costs, the utility costs, we already mentioned to staff that yes, those are certain, and because of that, we've asked that the staff include that 1.25% customer controlled contingency in the project. That's not something we control. That would be something the district controls, so that when the utility does come to the district and say you have to pay to upgrade your utilities, that you're covered for that, that there aren't any surprises. With regard to the access road, we're building an access road, so that shouldn't be a problem. We had the panels over on the west side. We were asked to move them over on the east side. With regard to panel washing, our analysis shows that with the 2 panel washings per year, you should be fine. When you have cloud cover, that'll affect your generation far more than dust. But that's based on our assessment. And then with regard to the decrease in numbers, every time we've spoken, what we've tried to do is address any concerns. We've included measurement and verification for 20 years. And so whenever you add that additional cost, which was at the request of staff, you're going to see reduction in the numbers. So
Nancy, it's lost opportunity for us. It's not your performance that I'm talking about. It's a 4.5% rate increase on to the ratepayer on fixed cost. It's locked into this location for 30 years for headquarters, which we know we need sometime in the reasonable future. We need to replace these facilities. They're falling down around our ears. You know, it's impact on CIP. We've got aging infrastructure that desperately needs repair, and to have to defer that another year is another lost opportunity that has a direct impact on ratepayers. So it's not your system per se that bothers me. It's what is the cost to other activities in order to do that. even if it produces a net sum zero increase in costs.
I think that's where staff is. We would like to do this project. It's just unfavorable timing right now to do this
And
project.
that's my question about, does it pencil out if we say, can't do it right now, but it's still a viable activity. Let's look at it a year from now or 2 years from now. And there's no grant money in there. What's the payback period for it? That's why I asked that question. If it doesn't pay without the grant, then I don't know.
Well, we're guaranteeing the 1.6 million and it does pay for itself with the guaranteed grant.
Our debt is too much.
Mr. Hamilton, I got a question for you. I've heard enough. I mean, are we gonna, or the game plans, we vote now, or do we go to closed session? What, because I can vote right now.
I think we have to have a public hearing to take the vote.
The public
To move
hearing
forward?
is scheduled to occur at the June 23rd board meeting. That notice has already been posted.
Right.
Patty, are you there?
Solar Patty.
Patty? Okay.
He's there, she's muted though.
Patty, we can't hear you. Patty?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm having an issue here with these cell phones. I think everything you've all contributed to, I am obviously pro solar. I don't think, like Chad said, maybe the timing is right now. We do have to get some of our infrastructure taken care of. And that would take precedence over this right now. But I would like to keep it going and consider it, a couple years down the road.
Yeah.
So I'm with staff.
I agree.
So if our recommendation to staff is not to consider it for public hearing, do we just drop it from the schedule?
Or do we hold the public hearing?
Yeah.
Or do we have to hold the public hearing?
No.
I can pull the notice.
We would pull the notice and it would be removed from the agenda.
So you'd like direction?
I would appreciate direction.
All right.
I'm not in favor of pursuing it.
Me neither.
Neither am I.
Neither am I.
We're my own house, my own project.
I
I'll
have
do it in a
too.
second.
Yeah.
But since we got pipes that are.
We all have
failing,
solar,
we've got a
yeah.
sewer line that needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
We've got reserves that aren't what they need to be. I can't support it.
And staff hears the board loud and clear. We will continue to pursue these options and opportunities, just not at this time.
And I'd look at this one, relative to, does it pencil out or can it pencil out if we don't have the grant?
And to Optera's credit, when I reached back out to all the different renewable energy companies, they were the only one that gave it serious thought, consideration, and even really responded back to the district. So we do appreciate Optera's
Right.
Time and energy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
you.
you, Nancy.
Thank you.
With that, basically, we're adjourned. I'm going to pass the information out items because they're information.
Finance report, did we talk
I
about that?
Hit it. Hit it, Prez.
Information, the information.
Sure, that's up to the board.
There's item 7 on here.
Thank you, everyone, for the
It
hard
was
work
much
on this
more.
particular thing.
Did want stuff.